From the vise of John Barr comes the wildly popular Copper John. Today we're beefing this pattern up to chase steelhead. Hey everyone, Matt here with the Northern Angler in Traverse City, Michigan. You can find all the materials for this fly and lots more at thenorthernangler.com. If you haven't heard of the Copper John, it might be one of the most popular and effective mayfly nymph imitations ever created. The steelhead version we'll be tying today has a few additional bells and whistles and a fun color scheme to grab the attention of these big fish. All right, once you've got your hook securely in the vise with the bead attached, you want to add a little bit of lead-free wire. Here I've added about 12 wraps. This is going to do two things. It's going to keep our bead in place and help bump up the size of that thorax. It's going to look really nice. Start your thread right behind the wire. I like to build just a little bit of a dam, make sure it's not sliding around. And we're working back. I'm going to go ahead and trim my excess so it's not in the way. And I want to work right on back to where the barb is. I want my thread to hang down and intersect with that barb. Once I'm there, I'm going to work my thread just back and forth, just a little teeny bit. I want to create just a tiny little bump. It's going to be hard to see, but this will really help when we're tying in our biots. You want to have your thread on the eye side of that bump though, that's important. Okay, we're gonna trim off 2 biots here. That's all we're gonna need. I trim them right up against, and we wanna orient these in your hand ahead of time. You wanna try and guess when you're tying them in. And I like to measure the length. I use my index finger and just press the tips lightly to see that they both align. Close is pretty good here. Now to measure the length, I want to measure from the eye back to the point of the hook. So I'm going to measure with my right hand, transfer that measurement, and then work these in. Now it's important, I'm going to try and show you, I'm splitting these with the hook. Okay, I'm going to lift my thread up and I'm pinching these right against the hook. Loose wrap. And then I'm going to add tension. Now once I got that, I have pretty well split, good looking biots that have slight upward angle. Take wraps forward, secure these, wrap up to the wire, and try not to have them overlap. Just a clean finish. There we go, nice. All right, build in a little bit of thread here just to take up some of that space. Not too much though. All right, we're gonna use some blue ultra wire because we're tying this for steelhead, and steelhead love blue, especially in low light. One trick I've started to use over the years of tying these is actually tying the wire in on the underside. This just helps cut down on kind of an ugly looking bump near the back end. It might not bother you for some reason. It bothers me a little bit. So I'm just gonna tie this in on the underside. You gotta be careful with your thread here. A little bit different. Okay, rotate up. And now that it's in, I would just want to build a little bit of taper with my thread. And to do that, I'm just working almost all the way back and then all the way forward. A little bit less, and then all the way forward again. And just subtle taper here. We really do not need to build this up a ton. I'm going to go about halfway up my wire. Half hitch here once or twice, and the rotary feature is going to be really nice working with this wire. Okay, grab it, and I tend to wrap away. It's just easier to tie off that way. We're going to take touching wraps. Don't rush at the beginning because
the beginning really makes it happen. I know some people will lay down some adhesive here, but it's wire. It's going to be pretty durable. And if we're tying these for steelhead, you got to be okay with losing a few of them. So these are going to go in the wood. That's okay. Wrap up to the end of that taper. Secure your wire. Now, since we're using medium, you're going to have to put a few more wraps in to secure this. This is a thicker wire. Bring your bobbin all the way up with the nozzle. Give it the helicopter. Great. All right. It's not perfect. It's not a show fly, but that's okay. This is ammunition to go in the box. I'm going to cover up the rest of that wire with some thread. Try and fill the gap just a little bit here. Don't go too crazy. Next, we're going to start building our flashback. And you always want to tie in the last piece first. So this is a bit of opal tinsel. Tying it in right at the bead. And yes, I am wrapping back on top of the wire to where I want that bubble to start that we're going to create. Next, we're going to use some thin skin. Just using brown here, that's just what I have today. Same process. And when you're trimming this stuff, I usually try and trim a little bit less than the hook gap. That usually tends to be too much. Put that in our material keeper. Great, and we're going to do something a little different with this one. We're going to add some silicone legs. These are foil legs that have blue and purple in them, along with the black. We're just going to tie them in right in the middle of the thorax. I like to leave these long before I wrap peacock herl. I just find it a lot easier to work with, and then we'll trim them at the end. Next, we're going to grab some peacock herl. We'll grab about 4 strands. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm actually going to tie these in with the butts facing the bead, and I'll show you why here in a second. It can be a little bit of a pain tying them in, but it's going to help build a nice, robust thorax that's hopefully, maybe, just a little bit more durable. Trim that, bring your thread all the way to the front so you're ready to tie everything off. I'm going to start wrapping this through. We're going to wrap back to the back edge of our thin skin. You can use the rotary here if you want. I'm just doing this by hand. Bobbin's not getting in the way. And then I'll wrap back over it. And this just gives us a little bit thicker thorax. Rotate, so I'm going to tie this off on the underside. You can tie it off wherever you want. Just where mine ended up this round. Trim that off nice and flush. Now, we got to tie in some legs. We're tricking this thing out. So we're going to use a hen feather today. And to prep this, I want to strip some of this stuff off. The back end off the bottom there. You want to expose the tip and trim the tip. This will give you a nice V shape. You don't want too much. There you go. Nice V. I'm going to set this in on top. I'm going to brace it with my left index finger and put 2 loose wraps on top of the stem. Now, all I need to do is pull in this stem. We're going to try and align these fibers with the point of the hook. They don't need to be a whole lot longer than that. That's pretty good. Add some tension. They look crazy right now, but that thin skin pulled forward is going to help tame them. Trim it close. Fold that thin skin over. You can use a little bit of pressure here. This stuff is stretchy. I'll put 2 wraps on top, 2 in front. Grab your flashback. Same deal, 2 on top, 2 in front. And you can repeat that depending on how confident you feel with your thread wraps. I'm going to come in here, trim that really close. And let's take a look, see where we're at. Looking pretty good. Next, I'm going to grab these legs. I'm going to trim them back to right where the wire ends. Pretty short. Just give it a little bit more character. You can keep them longer if you want. I think I trimmed that side a little shorter. Grab your whip finish tool. Give it one nice good whip finish. You can add a little bit of adhesive if you want. Trim that. And we're going to finish this off with a little bit of UV. That's going to give us that perfect little bubble at the top. I really like using UV thin. That's really important. You want a little bit of thickness to this. And I'm going to start at the back end off of the wire. I'm just working back and forth. Working up to my thread. And I'm using the needle to spread it out. Not adding too much here. It's always easier to add than take away, so go light. And I'm using 2 hands on the bottle. A nice bubble there. Hit it with my light. All right, we should be ready to rock.
That's the Steelhead Copper John. I hope you are all able to get out soon and give this fly a try. Be sure to grab the materials list. There's a link in the description below. Get tying, everyone. Hopefully we'll see you soon in the shop or out on the water.